Historically, Volkswagen AG has been criticised by electric car fans, sometimes rightly, for being particularly slow to bring new electric cars to market. In fact, in the immediate post-Dieselgate era, when Volkswagen was bringing concept car after concept car to international auto shows, I've got to admit that it felt as if the company was trying to pull a fast one. Yet, since then, Volkswagen AG and its constituent brands, including Porsche, Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda and Seat, have turned the corner, producing a range of all-electric models from the premium Audi e-tron and e-tron Sportback to the everyday Volkswagen ID3, ID4 and Skoda Enyaq 4, and the track-oriented Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo and Audi e-tron GT. Some of these models, like the Porsche Taycan, the Audi e-tron and the Volkswagen ID3, are already making their mark in the marketplace, while others are just coming to that market. Volkswagen is already the leading EV manufacturer in Germany by sales volume, thanks to the ID3 and the outgoing e-Golf. Audi is the leading EV brand in Norway right now, and Porsche, while its EV sales volumes are a fraction of its sibling brands, is earning critical praise for the Taycan's performance, build quality, charging speed, and impeccable road manners. But despite all of these new models and the actual progression of sales, which shows Volkswagen wasn't kidding when it claimed shortly after Dieselgate broke that it wanted to dominate the EV market, some nagging questions still remained. Such as, what would Volkswagen do for batteries in the future? Where would it obtain enough of them to produce all of those electric vehicles it said it wanted to make? And when would that solid-state technology it invested in actually be ready for market? Today, Volkswagen answered all of those questions and more during a 2-hour online presentation it called Power Day. During that event, we heard about how Volkswagen hopes to develop a unified cell design around future vehicles. We heard about just how Volkswagen plans to, just like Tesla, develop different cell chemistries for different applications within its brand. And we heard how it plans to utilize next-generation solid-state technology. We learned how it plans to implement structural battery packs into the future, how it wants to build 6 new factories across Europe that will produce at least 240 gigawatt hours of battery cells per year, and we learned how Volkswagen plans to interface its vehicles with your home energy system, leveraging smart grid technology and intelligent energy management to reduce the strain on your local grid. And during all of this, Volkswagen AG laid out a massive $29 billion commitment that the company says will transform itself and its brands over the next 20 years. So where do we start? What was really revealed in 2 hours of presentations? Is the brand going to achieve everything it sets out to do? Is it in fact serious? And what questions still remain to be answered? Let's start with the headlines. Opening the 2-hour presentation, Volkswagen CEO Dr. Herbert Diess said that, quote, e-mobility is a key part of the company's forward strategy, stating that Volkswagen has a goal of taking pole position in the global scaling of batteries, of making charging as easy as fueling by expanding its existing charging station networks, and combining e-mobility and energy together in one easy system. And while you may argue that Volkswagen isn't in a particularly strong position to claim that pole position right now, in fact, I wouldn't, I suspect there are those at the Volkswagen Group who would actually disagree. Diess reiterated during the presentation that if you take all of Volkswagen AG's brands, including Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Skoda and Seat, they already account for 1/4 of all new cars sold in Europe. No one brand, of course, is responsible for that market share, but together, 1/4 is certainly something we shouldn't be sniffing at. Right now, Volkswagen's market share includes some pretty pricey electric vehicles, namely the Porsche and Audi brands. But in order to break into a more mainstream market, the brand has committed to laying out its plans to produce what it calls a unified cell design. While you might think that translates to a single cell chemistry, it actually refers to a new battery construction standard that's shared between around 80% of all of Volkswagen's future electric vehicles. In a throwback to the Ultium battery system that General Motors is building right now, Volkswagen says these building blocks of cells will contain battery management within them. The cells from different vehicles may ultimately use different chemistries, but they'll all conform to a standardized mechanical design. And importantly, future Volkswagen models will be designed and built around this unified cell, not the batteries shoehorned in after the vehicle has been designed. Volkswagen's unified cell design is expected to get its first production vehicle debut around 2023, and the goal is to use it in approximately 80% of Volkswagen Group vehicles by 2030. The remaining 20% of Volkswagen Group electric cars, think high-end expensive vehicles from Audi and Porsche, will use custom-designed battery packs. These custom-designed packs will accommodate the maximum theoretical energy density, power, performance, and range as a pack can offer, as well as using the highest performance cell chemistries, regardless of cost. Right now, that's nickel metal cobalt cells, NMC. But that does come at a premium, something Volkswagen hinted would be its most expensive type of battery because both building cell chemistries and cell designs would vary for each platform. But since people who buy Audis and Porsches tend to be willing to pay more for more performance, that decision totally does make sense. For the rest of the Volkswagen AG group, though, where cost is more important, well, for that, this new unified cell design will shine. And to get those savings, a common mechanical setup for batteries combined with a choice of different cell chemistries will be employed. At the entry level of the market, Volkswagen is taking a page out of Tesla's book. It's going to use LFP cells, that's lithium iron phosphate, as a great way to reduce the cost of battery packs by approximately 1/2 compared to today's cells. While LFP cells don't offer incredible range, they're actually less energy dense, they are a lot cheaper to produce and, a bonus point, do not contain any cobalt. For its mid-range, mid-cost cells, Volkswagen wants to develop high manganese battery cells with a far lower nickel content than today's NMC cells. These high manganese cells are also cobalt-free, and since nickel is far more expensive than manganese, it's expected that these cells will also demonstrate an overall battery cost reduction of approximately 30%. These high manganese cells can replicate and compete with the current lithium-ion cells being produced for EVs today. It's hoped that these new cell chemistries, especially the high manganese cells, will also be able to offer higher charge rates as well. Volkswagen says today one of its electric vehicles making a 280-mile or 450-kilometre road trip would need to spend about 25 minutes en route charging. Come 2023, when its battery facilities will be online and producing these new unified cells, Volkswagen says it will be reduced to 17 minutes. After 2025, which is when Volkswagen hopes the solid-state quantum battery technology it's invested in will be ready for market, it says we'll see that charge time reduced to less than 12 minutes. Like Tesla and its battery day last year, Volkswagen also explains that over time it wants to migrate away from how battery packs are constructed today, namely cells grouped together in modules which are then put together in larger bricks, which are then put inside a battery pack with external battery management within the pack, but outside the cells. Instead, it wants to move towards structural battery cell designs. The cell-to-car design is its ultimate goal, a design which uses the battery management inside the cells, not outside them, something which again saves it a large amount of money as economies of scale come into play, improves serviceability, and lowers overall costs. To the highest performing cars, those from Porsche and Audi, Volkswagen's group aims to charge Porsche with the task of developing the highest performance, super energy dense batteries that it can. These will feature thinner electrodes, improved temperature resistance, high silicon content anodes, and more. Now to the production process. Just as Tesla announced its own dry electrode coating process during Battery Day last year, so too has Volkswagen announced a step towards dry electrode coating. The figures quoted by Volkswagen AG during its presentation points to a 30% savings on facility investment by just switching to dry electrode coating, as well as a 50% reduction in actual physical service area requirements. Like Tesla, Volkswagen also reiterated its commitment to securing resources at all points in the battery supply process, but it didn't go into details, other than to cement its battery recycling program as a cornerstone in a closed-loop battery system. And in case you're interested in Volkswagen's battery recycling, you'll see a video on it right here. How will these packs be made? For now, Volkswagen plans to rely on its battery partner Northvolt to help it expand its capacity production in Europe. Northvolt is currently building a massive facility in North Sweden that will be powered by hydroelectricity. It will begin producing these unified cells for the Volkswagen Group from 2023 onwards. Northvolt, like Volkswagen, has its own battery recycling program for closed-loop manufacturing, but it won't be the only source of battery cells. Volkswagen will continue to use its existing cell providers, but then, in 2025, Volkswagen will establish a brand new battery production facility in Salzgitter, Germany, followed by a similar facility in Western Europe, one in Eastern Europe, and 2 more facilities at locations somewhere in Europe that it has still yet to finalize. By 2030, Volkswagen's European productions will be capable of producing 240 gigawatt-hours of cells per year, and that's before we talk about the US or China. Spearheading its development will be the Salzgitter facility, which was already home to what Volkswagen calls its Centre of Excellence for battery cells. It's currently responsible for engineering and testing new cell chemistries and will be one of 3 such facilities in the world. Both China and North America will each get their own Centre of Excellence for batteries as well. To charging. Volkswagen spent some time during its presentation discussing its plan to expand its charging networks in China, North America, and Europe. Acknowledging some of the challenges that exist in China right now for its customers, the same kind of issues that many EV owners are experiencing elsewhere in the world, like iced charge points, broken hardware, and problems paying, Volkswagen highlighted the Charging as a Mobile Service, or CAMS network, that it helped create in China in 2019 while working with local partners. Moving forwards, CAMS aimed to have more than 17,000 charging points across China, made up of 120, 180, and 300 kilowatt charging stations. The networks not only prevent unauthorized parking through the use of robotic gates in front of each station, but also allows owners to pre-book charging stations, pay for charging, and route plan through a fully integrated smartphone and in-car app. And it should be compatible with the new EVs that Volkswagen is planning to make in China through 2 new partnerships there. In North America, Electrify America and Electrify Canada have committed to expanding their network to 800 charging sites, up from 500 now, by the end of this year. This is equivalent to around 3,500 charging plugs. In Europe, the planned expansion is even larger, with Volkswagen stating it will work with charging partners to install as many as 18,000 new high-power DC quick charging stations by 2025, which is 5 times the number of high DC quick charging stations in Europe today. This includes partnering with NLX, Iberdrola, and BP Pulse, as well as expanding its Ionity network. Interestingly though, Volkswagen says this only accounts for about 1/3 of the total rapid charging provision it thinks it needs in Europe for 2025, which suggests that it expects other stakeholders to still step up to the plate to add to the capacity. Don't think, though, that these partnerships just require third parties to do the legwork. As part of this event, Volkswagen showcased a range of brand new charging stations it's developed. These include the FlexPole, a dual-head DC quick charging station that features a second life battery buffer on board, something that Volkswagen says is a great use for second life batteries, but also ensures that it can offer high-power rapid charging in locations without requiring massive grid upgrades. Then there is a robotic DC quick charging unit that provides cars with a quick boost while they're in a parking garage, completely autonomously, although, as our very own recent hire Winter Tashlin notes, it's eerily similar to a character in a 1979 film called The Black Hole. And when it's parked just so, it does look like it's holding a gun. Yeah, Then there's the Eli Smart Charger, which will interface with Volkswagen's recently launched smart grid home energy system, as well as a larger bi-directional charging option. Working with energy grids, smart grid technology and AI in the cloud, Volkswagen says it wants to help users save energy and money at home, with their cars intelligently charging as much as needed for the daily commute, plus some extra, of course, for emergencies, after learning your daily usage needs, as well as using on-house energy generation like solar panels to start and stop charging when your home is, say, making more electricity on its roof than you are actually consuming in your home. Eventually, Volkswagen also wants to produce and sell home battery packs for customers, which will utilise second life Volkswagen EV batteries when they're in that strange period between needing to be removed from a car, but not actually ready for actual teardown recycling. And this is where Volkswagen's approach diverges dramatically from, say, Tesla's approach. Volkswagen sees the car of the future as part of an integrated emergency backup station for your home and an essential part of the smart grid of the future that can use peaks and troughs in energy consumption in your local grid to ensure that it reduces, not increases, demand. Tesla, meanwhile, sees your car as being something completely separate to your home, but it will also, of course, sell you a Powerwall for your home. Will Volkswagen succeed in its plans? Well, with $29 billion committed to this transition, I really hope so. Yes, the Volkswagen of old, the one that was caught and penalised for Dieselgate, although many other automakers were also guilty and not caught, is hopefully dead and gone. The company has a new CEO, a CEO whose very future employment contract is contingent on him turning around the company and steering it towards a cleaner, greener future. Right now, Diess seems to be heading in the right way, but that doesn't mean all of Volkswagen is behind him. Sure, every brand from Skoda to Scania, yes, this presentation also included a heavy commitment to electrify Volkswagen's big rig brands, is committing to electric, but Volkswagen still makes some really dumb stumbles. For example, just after this presentation, its North American arm announced a new transmission for the Volkswagen Golf R, one of the last bastions of high-octane, high-horsepower fossil fuel gluttony in the Volkswagen car brand. I think it's about time that becomes the ID.R though, don't you think, Volkswagen? Are there still challenges? Yes. Mining battery materials is still a major hurdle, and with limited sources around the world, it will be an out-and-out war to secure as much land and as mining rights as it can. But the same is true for every other electric car company as well, including Tesla. But with Volkswagen now showcasing a plan to drop battery costs, increase cell production, bring cell production in-house, and work to put the EV at the very centre of a new home energy ecosystem, well, I think that I can say that Volkswagen's brands are, for the most part, serious. It's sink or swim. Personally, I feel Volkswagen still needs to be held accountable for Dieselgate. I still think large reparations are still due. But at the same time, I think this new and exciting direction for the company should be encouraged and celebrated, especially if it can help accelerate the transition to cleaner, greener transportation. After all, I think that is what we all want. Volkswagen has shown it has the drive to make the switch, whether it's from a desire to survive or from a realisation its past direction was untenable for the future of our planet, is a bit of a moot point. More electric cars are better for everyone, especially if they're well made, engineered and supported. And based on what I've seen today, I believe that that is certainly Volkswagen's goal. So there you have it, an as short as I can breakdown of 2 hours of presentations. It's now 6 p.m. in the evening when I'm filming this, and I got up at 5 a.m. to watch the presentation. I'm sorry, today has just been very full of other things related to actually running a YouTube channel. But anyway, if I have made a mistake, I'm tired. Please be kind. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.